a world not unlike our own, I, Alex, found myself at the center of an extraordinary and terrifying event. It began on a seemingly ordinary day. The sun was shining, the birds were chirping, and life was moving at its usual pace. That is, until the sky changed. As I walked home from my job at the local tech store, I noticed a strange, ominous cloud formation. It wasn't like anything I'd ever seen before. The clouds were swirling in unnatural patterns, glowing with an eerie light. I couldn't tear my eyes away. That's when they appeared massive ships, unlike any aircraft known to man. They descended from the clouds with a menacing grace, casting long shadows over the city. Panic ensued. People ran screaming, cars crashed, and an ear-piercing siren echoed through the streets. The aliens had arrived, and they were nothing like the friendly, curious beings I'd seen in movies. These creatures were tall, with dark, leathery skin and eyes that glowed a fierce red. They moved with a purpose, their advanced weapons ready. I found myself frozen in place, unable to believe what I was seeing. But as the first blasts of their weapons hit the ground, creating craters and sending debris flying, survival instinct kicked in. I ran. The world around me had turned into chaos. Buildings were burning, and the air was filled with the cries of the wounded and the sounds of destruction. I ducked into an alley, trying to catch my breath and think. That's when I met Sarah. Sarah was a scientist specializing in extraterrestrial life. She, too, had been caught off guard by the sudden attack. Together, we tried to make sense of the situation. She explained that these aliens were known as the Draconis, a species from a distant galaxy known for their hostility and advanced technology. We need to find a way to communicate with them, to understand why they're here, she said, determination in her eyes. But how could we communicate with beings so different from us, beings that seemed intent on our destruction? We spent days hiding, moving from one safe place to another, scavenging for food and supplies. The city had turned into a war zone, with military forces trying to fight back against the alien invaders. But it was clear we were outmatched. One night, as we hid in the basement of an abandoned building, Sarah shared a theory with me. What if the Draconis are attacking because they feel threatened? What if we could show them we mean no harm? It was a long shot, but at that point, we were willing to try anything. We started working on a device that could mimic the Draconis communication signals. It was a complex task, but Sarah's expertise and my knack for technology proved to be a powerful combination. After several tense days and nights, we had a prototype. It was a small, intricate device that emitted a series of lights and sounds mimicking the Draconis communication patterns. We had no idea if it would work, but it was our only hope. We set out towards the city center, where the Draconis ships were most concentrated. The streets were deserted, littered with the remnants of the battle. It was eerie, walking through the city I once knew so well, now a shadow of its former self. As we approached the main ship, a group of Draconis soldiers spotted us. They raised their weapons, and for a moment I thought it was the end. But then, Sarah activated the device. The lights and sounds it emitted caught the attention of the aliens. They hesitated, their weapons lowered slightly. It was working. They were listening. Using the device, Sarah began to send a message of peace. She explained that Earth was a planet of diverse life, that we meant no harm to them or anyone else. It was a tense few minutes as we waited for their response. Finally, one of the Draconis stepped forward. Its voice was harsh and guttural, but the device translated. "We misunderstood your kind. We saw your weapons, your conflicts, and believed you to be a threat. It was a misunderstanding. A tragic, deadly misunderstanding." Negotiations began. The Draconis agreed to cease their attack, and in return, we promised to work towards a peaceful coexistence. It was a slow and difficult process, but it was a start. The world had changed forever. We were no longer alone in the universe, and the future was uncertain. But as I stood there, beside Sarah, looking up at the stars, I felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps, in this vast, mysterious universe, there was room for understanding and peace after all.